Hello and welcome to episode 2 of the Martin Lynch & Sons podcast. I'm Jonathan M0JSX.
And I'm Gary M0TIG.
Excellent. You've remembered your own call sign, Gary. Well done.
I have. I don't use it very often, but I have remembered it.
You've remembered it. Thanks if you watched and listened to our last week's podcast. We did it as our Something for the Weekend video. This one, I don't believe will be our Something for the Weekend video.
No,
we'll
it's
do
not.
something else. It's not.
No.
This is our. We've got our feet under the table, and we're now sort of sliding in, and hopefully we'll know what we'll have sort of vague idea of what you're after from this
And what we're doing.
and what we're doing. Oh, we have no idea. We've not a clue what we're doing. So we're going to try and weave our way through some questions that were posted in relation to our first episode. We'll also bring you some news as well, and generally have a bit of a chat for about half an hour about amateur radio.
Or whatever else comes into my weird mind.
We could end up talking about, I don't know, cheese on toast. It could well be the case.
Do you like cheese on toast?
I do like cheese on toast.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, bit of Worcester sauce. Lovely.
I like blue cheese.
Do you? You're a blue cheese on toast kind of guy.
Yeah, go for it. Why not? Anyway.
Should we start with the news, Gary?
You do the news.
Okay, I'll do the news. I'm going to start this week with, we often get asked, I don't know whether you do, Gary, but I often get asked, where can I do a full exam?
Yeah.
Or where can I do a full course?
Yeah.
Obviously, all the exams at the moment are online. But for many years, we've been always recommending the Bath-based distance learning course for the full exam. And since the syllabus changes a year ago or more, they haven't been running them because they haven't updated all of the training material for the new syllabus. Well, they now have, and the Bath-based distance learning course is back on. I'm going to read you the article from GB2RS. The Bath-based distance learning team helped nearly 800 students pass the advanced exam under the old syllabus. After reworking their training material, the team are now planning their first course for the full level exam syllabus. The course will run from March to June this year. Students will receive weekly work packages via a virtual classroom and will have access to weekly online tutorials. There'll be no charge for the training, but applicants will need to work through a pre-course classroom and quiz to be eligible for a place. The deadline for course applications is Wednesday the 17th of February. To request full details and an application form, you've got to email Steve, G0FUW, via g0fuw@tiscali.co.uk. Now, I know Steve very well. And
is he nice?
He is very nice. He's very knowledgeable. He is one of, I think, amateur radio's good guys. And I think that if you get a place on the Bath course, you are set. You are going to pass. It's almost guaranteed. Almost. Not 100%.
Almost.
You've got to put the work in, but Steve will definitely be there to help you. There you go, Gary. You could get your full. Oh, wait, you already have.
I did do my full. I did it with Reading Club.
So did I.
Yeah. So that was good. It was good fun. It was a bit daunting, as I recall. It was a huge jump from the intermediate to the full. I was a bit shocked. I was shell shocked for about 2 years, I think. After.
I'm still shell shocked. I've got it.
It's all good though. It was well worth doing, and I'll be honest, it's actually saved my bacon because obviously working in engineering for a very long time, being made redundant, actually having the ham radio license kind of got me sort of involved with Martin Lynch and Sons, and that's how now I am where I am.
You've made it your job. That's what you're saying.
So yeah, it was a good move. I could have been in a whole heap of doodah if it hadn't gone the way it had. So it just goes to show, doesn't it, that just a lowly ham radio license can be a bit of a saviour.
It can open doors.
And is that all of the news?
No, I've got some more.
Oh,
I've got some more. The January 2021 edition of Radcom Basics is now available on the RSGB website for members to read. It is designed for new licenses or anyone who wants an introduction to a different part of amateur radio. This issue looks at antennas, setting up a radio bench, making a metal box, and the value of listening as a radio amateur. You can go and find it if you're an RSGB member at rsgb.org/radcom-basics. I've actually read some of Radcom Basics, and I think it's very well produced. You know what, Gary? If you're interested in a magazine for the new ham, the ARRL's version of Radcom Basics, they call it On the Air. If you're an ARRL member, is brilliant. They've been doing that for about a year.
Okay.
It's every other month they do it, and it is. I think it's very well produced. So Radcom Basics is good. If you're also an ARRL member, then you can get On the Air as part of your membership package to the ARRL.
Wow. So should I also join that?
It's entirely up to you. If you're outside of the US, then the benefits of being an ARRL member, I will be honest, are limited.
You just get the magazine.
You're basically in it for the magazines. Now, there's sort of if you want to join the ARRL, you can do as two sort of levels. You can either have a printed copy of the magazine of your choice. Now, there's a few to choose from. Most people will choose QST. And you can have that, and this is the level I'm on. I have that mailed to me every month. So that's quite a costly one if you're outside of the US, because you've got to pay for the postage ultimately.
Oh, we don't mention postage at the moment.
Let's not mention postage at the moment. Although weirdly, QST has been arriving on my doorstep absolutely fine. But the other one is you can have a digital only membership, so you can have access to all of the magazines in a digital format, and you get that with the printed one. You get access to all the other magazines in a digital format as well. That's pretty much your only benefit. Obviously, if you're in the US, and you also get to make use of things like the QSL Bureau and the FCC stuff as well. There's a lot of benefits. If you're a US ham, there are benefits to being a member of the ARRL. If you're a UK ham, there are benefits to being a member of the RSGB.
All right. Well, okay. Well, I've certainly like a lot. The digital content. Obviously, being an iPad user, it's really, really good to. It's a really easy way of digesting.
It is. And in fact, the ARRL have a dedicated app for iPad for all of the magazines, and they revamped it about a year ago, and since they did that, it's fantastic.
Brilliant.
And I think, without wishing to ruffle any feathers at the RSGB, I think there's a lot that you could learn from the ARRL app.
Yeah, I think so. But the thing is, I think we're in the UK when it comes to sort of some of these technical kind of adoptions, like especially with the digital content. I think there is a distinct, maybe there's an age thing at the moment. I think it's changing a little bit. The demographic for the for ham radio in the UK is definitely changing. People that are coming through now are very digital minded. I think up until fairly recently, I think a lot of people still expected to see a paper, magazine, paper catalogue and that sort of thing. So I think it may be in the US it might be a little bit different, where people are slightly more maybe exposed to technology a little bit sooner. I don't know what the answer is, what the issue is, but it would appear that way to me. Anyway.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think that the level of expectation is shifted in the hobby. I think that's very true. Talking of news from afar, Iceland is receiving positive responses to its Post and Telecom Administration in December to their request for renewal of the amateur radio permits for 160 meters and 4 meters. The frequency range of 1850 to 1900 kilohertz in specified international competitions is valid for 1 year between January the 1st and the 31st of December 2021, and the permit for the frequency range of 70 to 70.250 megahertz is valid for 2 years up until the 31st of December 2022. Licensees need to apply for and renew special permits to the PTA as older permits expired on the 31st of December. An email can be sent to hrh@pfs.is before shipments begin. It must be stated that an application has been applied for a new period for the above. There you go. So if you're in Iceland and you want to get on top band, you can have your top band in a particular contest. You can have your license updated to reflect that.
And did you mention 4 meters as well?
And
there?
4 meters as well, yeah.
Well, 4 meters for us, that would be fantastic, wouldn't it? That would be some,
Good,
I mean,
DX
that's
to Iceland, yeah.
yeah, that would be that's almost doable as well. I'm sure of it.
If you're in far north of Scotland, I'm sure it is. Like,
Yeah.
if you're in sort of the either the end of the Outer Hebrides, you could easily work Iceland on 4.
Yeah, I was going to say that would be one to get in your call book or in your diary.
Yeah, and a nice little overlap between our band and the band they've got there. So you've got sort of 250 kilohertz of shared allocation there.
Okay.
Actually, around the sort of the SSB end of the band. So working on SSB.
Wow,
Fine.
that's it. Get your 4 meter kit out. So suddenly that's your DX10, the 7300.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be really, really nice. And a 4 meter beam is not really that difficult to build either, is it? Or get hold of. And it's certainly not very expensive if you bought one.
No, it's absolutely. You could, if you wanted an easy antenna to build for 4, and you didn't want to sort of do all of the calculations on a beam, you could easily build a 4 meter delta loop. That would be very easy to build.
Yeah, it would. And that kind of brings me on to the one of the little highlights I've got in our little document here, is antenna talk. Maybe we should do some bits and pieces on antennas, sort of over this sort of series, and that kind of then brings me on. Then you were sort of talking about a delta loop, and I've got one of the little highlighted things here which comes up constantly at work, and I'm sure you've been asked the question a gazillion times. I think everyone, what is the best antenna? What is the ideal antenna to have in your all-purpose shack? And I think that's a pretty tough question to answer.
But that is a very tough question to answer.
But I think in my particular location, VHF, UHF is kind of ideal to a degree because the antenna sizes are much, much smaller. I don't have to deal with any of that VDSL nastiness, and I certainly don't have to deal with a massive great antenna outside. I mean, at the moment, I'm just using a fiberglass pole with one of those SGC 237s or a CG 3000 type affair attached to the bottom of it, and that works really, really well. I seem to do all right with the FT8 stuff. Not so well with phone, but that's probably down to me and my skill set. But certainly the FT8 I seem to do okay with. It's not so bad. What are you using at home at the moment?
So I've got sort of 3 antennas strung up in the garden, and before my move, they're going to have to come down. In fact, 2 of them are. One of them's staying for Dad.
Right.
But I've got a half-size G5RV with the induction coils that we sell, and then you get an extra bit of wire on either side of the induction coils, which makes it electrically an 80 meter. It makes it a full-size G5RV to cover 80. And I have to say, that works surprisingly well. If you're limited on space and you've only got about the room in for a half-size 5RV, you could bend the end of that antenna downwards on each end, and that works. I say that works really surprisingly well on 80 meters. I've also got up one of the Bushcom 20 and 40 meter trapped dipoles, and again that works brilliantly.
They're very well made, aren't they?
Oh, they are fantastically made. That's up as an inverted V. That's been up for 3 years. Never had to do anything with it. Just leave it up and it works. And most recently I've slung up a 10 meter end-fed half wave. So a 10 meter length of wire with one of the 49-to-1 ununs that we do. Again, that works very well on 20 meters. Although I did for DX CQ Worldwide a couple of months ago. I ran that up the side of a 10 meter fishing pole as a vertical antenna, and that worked very well.
Good.
It worked very well until the pole snapped.
That's the problem, isn't it?
That might have been my fault.
Yeah, it's all down to guying. My pole out here, I've got 2 sets of guys on because, believe it or not, although I'm sort of on the edge of London here, this is there's an alcove out here, and the wind howls around that little bit, and it really gets up to speed. So much so that it hit that about, I don't know. Remember, I had a little bit of a drama. The wind hit that that corner, it took my aerial down. Well, actually, no, the DX commander I had up at the time actually survived. But the wind hit that corner, shot upwards, took my ridge tile off, which sent it about 6 foot spiralling into the sky, which then landed in the middle of the roof and made a great big hole in it.
I do remember that.
It cost me over $1,000 to get that fixed. I was really, really chuffed. Not.
Yeah, what's the opposite of chuffed?
Unchuffed.
Unchuffed.
Yeah, so I wasn't particularly happy about that. So
No.
yeah, antennas for me are a real pain in the neck, and I keep hearing all these. Everyone says, "Oh, my aerial's the best," and all that sort of stuff. And I think that's an interesting aspect to antennas. What works for you may not work for me, and I think that's quite interesting. I don't know what causes that. It's the location in some way. But I remember when I was living in Frimley, there was an old ham there, a lovely guy. His name was William, and I can't remember his call sign. I'm really sorry, William, if you're watching. But he was quite an old man then, and he said to me, he said, "You're a radio ham," and I said, "Yes." And he said, "So am I." He said, "Welcome to the the RF black hole." But it's all built on Frimley is based all on ballast up there, and it's all it's gravel and all that sort of stuff. But it's a fantastic place if you ever wander around sort of Frimley. It's got like the old fuel allotments and all sorts of things. It's really quite a spectacular place up there, and it's right on a ridge. You would think that it would be fabulous, but it's not. And but anyway, there you go. Right. So what else have we got to do? Do you want to pick anything from the list that?
Just one thing I want to pick up that we spoke about last week was about the EMF stuff out of Ofcom.
Oh yeah.
Just to say that the RSGB have published a new EMF calculator, revised version of it, and you can find that on the. It looks like it's under the RSGB membership section. So if you're an RSGB member, I think you can get to it. But I'm sure if you had a quick internet search of RSGB EMF calculator, you'll find it. But just say there's a new version of that was uploaded just a few days ago. I don't know what the changes are. I'm just bringing you it as I see it. There we go.
Well, I think at the moment, like we said last week, it's all just sort of hearsay and talk at the moment, isn't it? So it's. There's nothing cast in stone. And actually, I think it's a good thing. I think Ofcom actually have done something really, really quite positive. They've got a grip of all of this before it starts to get shoveled, in our direction. I think they've taken the assertive kind of move. I think, which is really, really good. But anyway, there you go. And they've talked about it, and I think that's all it is at the moment. It's just talk. Right, what else? So is there anything else you wanted to
news-wise, that's me. That's me done.
Yeah. What else?
Let me quickly down the list here. A good question. That was on our little list here is why is upper sideband used on the 60-meter band? Surely it should be lower sideband.
Now I did ask Stuart Bryant from the RSGB this question.
Okay. G3YSX, I believe.
Yeah, he gave me a string of answers, and the one that I can remember,
okay,
at my age, was the fact that it's USB is used by the the primary user basically, and they want to hear you, and two, you need to know where they are so you don't cause them any interference. Now, Richard at work pointed out that all this stuff is in the advanced manual.
Right, okay.
He's printed me out. Just, what I'll do is I'll find out where he got it. He got it off of Wikipedia. So what I'll do is I'll get Henry to put the link to this in the little bottom bit. But he's highlighted me all this stuff.
Oh, wow, he's prepped you there, hasn't he?
He has, yeah. He's a nice man. He's prepped me for that one, just in case I got quizzed completely on it. But no, it was, so he's done all of that. And he's given me a reference data. Look, he's given me the whole lot. For the.
You're all set to pass your advanced exam again.
I know, yeah. I still don't know how I did it last time, but anyway, there you go. That's another story, right? So yeah, that was the answer I was given, and it makes perfect sense to me, and I've seen it written down in the manual, so it's all good.
There we go.
Now then, if we've got any good questions in it, no, here's one that's kind of related. My local council and neighbours won't allow me to put up a big antenna. What are my options for operating HF covertly?
Apart from the obvious answer.
What, don't operate?
No, move.
Well,
apart from the obvious answer.
Yeah, well, all right. But just in case you can't. So
Okay.
What are the options?
If you've got a loft space, you could always run an antenna in the loft space. It wouldn't be as good as something outside.
Might be a bit noisy.
Might be a bit noisy, but if you wanted to play with data modes, that would work. I know a local amateur around my way that who is restricted with what he can do antenna-wise.
Yeah.
Not necessarily by the council or by his neighbours, but by the station manager. And he has a bit of wire in the loft, and he does very well on certainly on FT8 on most bands.
Okay.
You could also, if you've got a fence line, you could easily run a piece of wire along the fence, provided your fence is made of wood.
Yeah.
That would work. Or if you can get away with it, just run a very thin wire. You can buy from companies like Soda Beams, or you can probably get them on eBay as well, to be honest. Very thin covert wire. Which is almost invisible.
I can tell you a horror story about that stuff. I did an experiment a long while ago on because obviously coming from an engineering background, I've actually been dealing with welding wire.
Yeah.
And on the MIG machines, there's actually a really, really thin wire, and it can be 0.6, 0.8, or 1.2 millimeters thick. And I used to have a spoiled spool of I think it was aluminium wire. Basically, it had been contaminated, so we couldn't use it. So I brought the reel home, and I was using this I think it was 1.2 aluminium wire. It was really, really thin, and it was almost like a spider web. There is a bad thing about this, okay? Birds don't see it and they fly into it. I do not know how, all right? Honestly, it was absolutely horrific. I couldn't cope with it. But I just don't know how it works, because, you know, it's one tiny piece of wire, and you would think that it's in the sky, and why are they using that particular route? You know, the odds of that happening are just like, you know, scarily small, but they did it. So I felt terrible, so that had to come down. So you can't go too thin, certainly not for a permanent install. But you can.
That reminds me of one occasion where had a pole, a 2-inch pole down the bottom of the garden that was supporting one of the G5 RV, and somehow, and I don't know how, a red kite managed to hit it.
A red kite.
A red kite.
Was it all right?
It was. It flew away.
I'd be just absolutely heartbroken. I don't know what I would do. Anyway, so yeah, so loft antennas. I get asked that one a reasonable amount, actually, because a lot of people put in the baby loops and that sort of loop in the loft, and I have a bit of a concern with putting any kind of loop with a big capacitor or anything in a loft where you're not going to be near it, and that is, you know, the element of fire risk. If you're a little bit overzealous with the power and you get a flashover or something like that, you know, you can't rule it out, can you, really? So I would suggest to anyone, if they do that sort of thing and they've got a loop in the loft, make sure you got a smoke alarm up there or whatever. I don't know. I'm not no expert on that sort of stuff, but you know, that would be my only concern. You have to be a little bit careful, but also
would one of the MFJ loops be better because it's an enclosed capacitor? Possibly.
I'm not, you know, but there again, you can't rule anything out, and you just have to be careful. I think if you're going to put sort of something like that up in a loft space where no one is going to be able to sort of see it, what you don't want is it for something to go wrong and, you know, it'd be up there. That's my only thing. So do keep a regular check on things if you've got them up in the loft. But also the other one that's quite a good one is that is it the folded dipole? Was it the TM?
Oh, the T2FD.
That's the one. That's quite a good one to put up there because if I remember rightly, Diamond do a shortened version of that, the 330S.
Yes, they do.
Yes. Now I've got one of those. It was one of the ones that came in from probably a silent key or something like that. And I did some experiments with that. That's actually quite a good receive aerial, and it's a moderately good TX aerial. It's not brilliant, but it certainly is a very good receive aerial. And it seemed to work on data mode. So that's another option. And the good thing with that one, because it's actually folded and into a loop sort of shape, it does reject sort of some of the noise that you might find in a loft space. So,
Yeah, and nice and wide band as well.
yeah, I think actually, am I right in thinking that was? It's not. I don't think it's one. I don't think it's top band through.
I think
to
it's
10.
80 meters.
It is. It's 80 through to 10. So that's a nice antenna. That's a good option. Just if you've got real tight space limitations, because you can also with that one you can hook it up at sort of like a bit of an angle, 30 degrees or so. And I'm told that in some of the military kind of that type of installation, they use a central pole and they put 4 of them up to make up sort of like a wigwam sort of shape.
Oh, okay.
Now, what they're doing with them, how they're using those antennas. Now, someone did say to me that there was a possibility of them using them in a particular way, but I'm not sure what that is. So that's an interesting one, that one. And they're only what, 10 meters?
Yeah, they're quite short. I would imagine they're phasing them in that kind of array. They're
right.
phasing them in order to get directionality out of them.
Yeah, all right,
I would have
maybe.
thought.
But it looked good. Apparently it all works. So, I mean, I know that with all these sorts of things, they're probably using some funky sort of modes or something like that, and maybe it was all part and parcel to that. But mind you, saying that it's quite a long while ago now, because it was actually my friend who was ex-military that was talking about it, and unfortunately he's now silent keys, and that was a long while ago. So, what else have we got on here? So,
I think a question related to a video that I know you've done on your own channel.
Oh dear.
What desktop radio, I don't suppose it has to be desktop at all, but what radio would be best for operating FT8 and FT4?
FT8 and FT4. Well, a desktop radio. I'm going to probably... I'm going to hedge my bets on this one a little bit. I'm probably going to say there's 3 radios which would probably be my go-to now, and I think you can guess pretty much what they are. My favourite digital
is one of them there. Is that one of them?
That is one of them. Yeah.
Is that one of them? Okay.
Yeah. I think probably my go-to digital radio, I think, is still the Kenwood 590, possibly followed up very quickly by something like an FTDX 10 or something like that. However, I don't think you can you can't look past the 7300. You can't, I think that's a really good radio for that sort of stuff, and it's bang for buck. It's fabulous, and it's someone did actually say that one was a true sampling SDR. Am I got this right? I hope I have.
Direct sampling.
It's direct sampling.
Yeah, the 7300 is direct sampling. The FTDX 10 is not.
It's a hybrid.
It's a hybrid, yeah.
Yeah.
And the IC705 is direct sampling up to 25 megs. Above 25 megs, it downsamples to 25 megs.
Okay. Well, you see, that's your young mind remembering all these facts and figures. Is the 590, what makes that work so well on digital modes? Because it's really, really, it's just such a lovely, it's almost like I don't know really, it's like a smooth, I don't really know how to describe it. It's like creamy tea. It's just like, it is, it's just a very pleasurable experience with the...
I think on the 590, it's got a very good receiver in it, full stop. And I think the thing that makes digital modes so appealing is their ease of how to do it. But what makes them work very well is a really wide receive bandwidth. And I think on the 590, you can really extend your receive bandwidth out quite a bit. With the 7300, I think you're limited to about 3K. I think that's about the same on the on the 705, and I'm not sure about the FTDX10, but I imagine it's probably about the same. I think on the 590 you might be able to get that about to 3.5K on receive, so you can really fill your waterfall without having to continually change your VFO or your radio. Now, in practical terms, it probably doesn't make a lot of difference. Whatever radio you've got, you will be able to do FT8 with it. It's just how you interface to it. And if you're running an older radio, something pre-USB on the back, then you might have to be a little careful in how you interface. Now, obviously, in terms of interfaces, say if you're running let's think, if you're running an FT450D, for instance, which is a radio that both Gary and I have owned at one point, you've got sort of two options with how you interface to it. You can go down the route of a sound card interface on like a Tigertronic Signalink USB, which is a good solution. It'll get you on the air.
Yeah.
It's not the best solution, though, I'd say.
No.
Because if you're running one of those radios from Yaesu that doesn't have the USB port on the back, you're better off going with the SCU17.
Yeah.
For the simple reason what a lot of people don't initially realise when they start playing with FT8, and I didn't either, is the software wants to be able to control the actual VFO frequency of your radio. And you'll often see it when you go to transmit and you've got it configured properly, it will shift the VFO frequency by about half a K to compensate and keep the transmitted audio well within the passband of the radio. So you've got to be careful about that. So if you're running a radio that doesn't have a USB port on the back and you can't do it easily, look at what your options are to get cat controlled as well. I know that West Mountain Radio do a few interfaces as well.
Yeah, I've had one of those in the past, and they're such a good thing. Those, I like those.
And I think it's definitely the way that you should look to go if you want to do those particular modes.
Yeah, I mean, Yaesu, I think, are pretty, I won't say unique, but they're certainly almost all of the older radios tend to have a cat port, an RS232 port on the back, which is easy to interface now with a simple, £5 dongle from Amazon. You can, easily interface with that. And also, something like a Tigertronics is fairly easy to set up. What I will say about the SCU17 is that it can have, slightly longer or curvier learning curve than maybe a Tigertronics. But the downside is with a lot of these sort of things is you need to configure the box itself for different radios. And I've had, calls where people have just taken their box, tried to plug it into another radio, and then get themselves into a bit of a pickle. One of the things that comes up from time to time also is that, lots of questions on connecting WSJT X to their radio using the SCU17 or Tigertronics or whatever it might be. And for those people that get stuck with that, if they've got older radios or the newer radios and they're getting stuck, make sure you get to the is it Princeton University or you make sure you get to their wiki page, because they've got the most amazing document. Have you seen it? It's huge.
Of how to connect different radios.
Well, no, just using that program. It's they've really taken their time doing that, which is
it's Joe Taylor. It's all behind it, isn't it?
All right, okay.
What's it called? K1JT, I think it's called.
All right, okay.
Cool.
I know it's a bit like a one of those combination locks. You've just got to get the combination right that works for your radio. One just little note though is please watch your power on these things. We still get from time to time, people have done some damage, so do be careful.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what's next?
What's next? I was scrolling down our little document here, Gary.
Mm-hmm.
New firmware for the FTDX10?
Yeah, there's new firmware for the FTDX10. I don't know what it did, but I put it on. It went in really, really easily. There were two upgrades by the looks of it, and I think it was I think it was the main and the screen, I think, if off the top of my head. Can't remember, but it was it was really easy to do. It wasn't a difficult process. So thank you, Yaesu, for catching up with all that sort of stuff. I think on all their later radios now, especially their big ones, it's all SDR firmware updates rather than this strange stuff with cables and funny screen switches and
yeah, I remember I updated the firmware on my FT450 once.
Right.
That was a scary process because you have to go under the radio and get your little screwdriver and click a little switch to put it into like the firmware update mode. Then plug it into your computer and you have to do it on the third Sunday of the month. Otherwise, it's going to blow up on you. Yeah, it's
okay.
That was a bit scary.
Right. Well, it was a very easy process, and I think I think it was worse on something like the original. Do you remember the FT2000s and stuff like that? You used to have to make a dummy plug up, I think, for some of them. I can't remember if it was the 5000 or the 2. I think it was the 2000 you had to do the dummy plug thing for. So anyway, there you go. Right, now then. So what else have we got on our little thing? What we got here? Let's do a question. Should we do another question?
Do another question, Gary.
Right, okay. So why is there a fuse in both the positive and negative DC power leads for radios? Well, that one's fairly straightforward, I think.
Belt and braces.
Belt and braces. If you get an earth return or something like that. I think obviously it's protect the cable, isn't it? So if the radio, if you've got say like you're starting your car or something, there's an earth return. If it goes back down the negative lead, then obviously it'll blow that lead rather than set fire to your car. I think that's it's belt and braces. It's protecting the cables from fire basically. And if something tries to get the ground, tries to get a return via the negative cable, via the antenna or something like that, it basically blows that fuse. So that's that answer, I think. If you know better, if anyone knows better, then please, we're
absolutely.
Open. We're all open.
Here's a good one, Gary. What relation does SWR have to receive performance? Will a 1-to-1 SWR antenna perform better than a 4-to-1 for receiving?
Yes.
Excellent. Thanks for watching. No, go on, Gary.
Oh, I would have said it would, wouldn't you?
It will do. It will do. It will have an impact. It will work better than a 4-to-1. But if you're just receiving, any bit of wire shoved up in the air is better than no bit of wire shoved up in the air.
Yeah.
So even if you do have a horrendous SWR on receive, you're likely to. It's not as critical as it would be if you're transmitting. So, yeah, if you're new to the hobby, if you just want to do a bit of SWLing, shove a bit of wire up.
Yeah, I think you can see that if you get sort of like an antenna with a tuner on it, the more to resonant you get, you can see the noise floor, everything pick up. So I think it does make a difference. It's like you say, but it's not going to be horrendously different. But anyway, there you go. So we've been going a long time.
Yeah, I think it's time to finish. Thank you very much for watching and listening. We'll do another one of these next week. If you want to pop a comment into the comment section if you're watching on YouTube, then please feel free, and we'll potentially answer your questions and points next week. You can also email us if you want to. Email us on the sales email address, sales@hamradio.co.uk, with any questions. If you're listening to us as the audio podcast, we'll be very happy to answer your points as well. But for this week, that's pretty much us. That's us done. I've been Jonathan Sawyer. Thanks very much indeed.
And I've been Gary M0TIG. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
See ya.